Today we're going to talk a bit about sharps and flats. I like to think of a normal note, which you'd call a natural note, as being a little bit like a tyre. I don't know whether you can see. And a flat note is a bit like a flat tyre. So imagine this tyre has got a puncture and it goes and it goes down. So if you imagine the car sitting on top of it, it could be have as the car. This could be the car. And here's the tyre, and as the tyre goes flat with a puncture, oh dear, the car comes down. So the car gets lower. And that's the same when we use a flat in music. When we put a flat sign, which looks like this, when we put that in front of a note, it means that our note goes a little bit lower, like that. Okay, on the other hand, if we put a sharp sign in front of a note, which looks like that, it's kind of like a hashtag, isn't it? If we put a sharp sign in front of a note, it does the opposite. Now, we've had a family birthday recently, so we have got lots of these everywhere. But we also had some of these. It's a candle. And this is the little candle holder. Now, I think if you accidentally sat on this, you see it's pretty sharp, I think you'd go, oh! You'd go up. So that's what I like to think of a sharp sign, is like having something sharp that makes you go, oh! Makes the note go up a bit. So the flat sign, this one, is like the flat tyre, so the note is a little bit lower, it goes down a bit. And then you have something sharp, and that makes you go, oh! It makes the note go up a bit. Okay? So we're now going to look at sharps and flats on the piano, because actually it's quite helpful to be able to see the different notes. And on the harp, some of them are kind of invisible, which we'll look at in a minute, if you can look at something invisible. So here are all the white notes on the piano. So the low notes are right down at the bottom here, and then as you go along, as if you were reading a book, you get to the high ones up at the other end. Now, all the white notes are just normal notes, or what we would call naturals. So for example, they just follow the musical alphabet. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. Or we could call them A natural, B natural, C natural, D natural, but normally we just give them their letter names. But if you can see on the piano, there's also all of these black notes. And those are the sharps and flats that we were talking about. If you remember, the flats, that's slightly lower than the natural notes, and the sharps, that are slightly higher than the natural normal notes. So here, this is an A, so that you would just call it an A, or you could call it an A natural. Now, if you remember our flat tyre, we go down a little bit, we go to the next door black note here, and that we would call an A flat. So watch again, A and A flat. Now my piano is actually very out of tune, so if you've got kind of clever music people listening to this, they'll say, actually, that's not quite right. But for the purposes of this, I think it's going to work okay. So here we go, we have the natural note, and next door we have the flat note, just that little bit lower, okay? But we also have one to the other side of the note. So that's our sharp note. So that's a tiny bit higher than the natural note. Okay, and that would be the same for all of the different notes. Now it gets a little bit confusing when you say you look at this note here. Now you think, well, is that one step down from a G, making it a G flat, or is it one step up from an F, making it an F sharp? And the answer is that both would be correct. Okay. So now we're having a little look at the pedal harp. Now, as you can see, the pedal harp has 7 pedals. And each pedal, it's nothing like on the piano where the pedals are to do with loud and soft and so on, and how long the notes are sustained for, how long the notes last. On the harp, the pedals are all about the sharps and the flats. Now, if you can see, we've got 7 pedals, and each pedal controls one letter name of all the strings. So, for example, we've got one pedal here. Now, this is the C pedal here, and so this pedal controls all of the C strings on the harp. Okay? And then we have these other pedals as well, and each one, so we'll have one for all the C strings, one for all the D strings, one for all the E strings, one for all the F strings, and so on. Now, I hope you can see, you might just be able to see, that there are 3 different possible places that each pedal can go. So at the moment, these 3 pedals are all in the middle slot that they can go into, and in that middle slot, that's the slot for natural. So that would mean that the strings that are controlled by these pedals would be in their natural position. So they would sound like the white notes on the piano sound. But we also have these other slots here and here. So watch. So my pedal could either be here, or it could be here, or it could be here. Now, I normally wouldn't do this with my hands. I would normally be doing it with my feet. So that's what I was talking about, that it's kind of invisible, because normally when you watch a harpist, you're not watching their feet, you're watching what their hands are doing. But look again, so here, that middle position, that's the natural note. So that's the same as having all of the white notes on the piano. But in order to get the sharps and flats, in order to get the black notes that we have on the piano, we either do this, or we do that. Okay, now we're going to have a look at what's going on up the top of the harp. So here we are at the top of the harp, and I want you to be looking up here at what all these little cogs and things are doing. So if we look at this low C string at the moment, the C string is able to sound right from the very, very top of the string, which I think you can't even see, all the way down to the bottom of the string, which you definitely can't see. And that sounds like that, okay? So on all musical instruments, the longer the string or the longer the tube, the lower the note, okay? So here we've got a really, really long string, and it's sounding very, very low. But what we can do with our pedals is we can change that. So if you watch up here, you see the little black bits here, and I'm going to move my pedal 1 notch, and watch what happens. So that tightens up, and it means that the string can now only sound from this point down to the bottom. So in effect, we've made the string shorter, and by making it shorter, we make the sound higher. There you go. I don't know whether you can remember what the other one sounded like, but here's the low. And here we go, slightly higher, okay? But then, if you remember, I had 3 notches, so I can do another notch. I can make it even higher. There we go. So, that one string is playing 3 different notes, okay? Now, if you remember, the middle notch is the natural note. So here we go. So that's C natural. That would be the same as the C you would play on the piano. It's just an ordinary C, a C natural. Okay? If I make it C flat, a little bit lower, because if you remember, the car went down because the tyre went flat. Okay? So back to our C natural, and here we go. Now we go sharp. So C natural and C sharp. But interestingly, when I'm using the pedal, it's not just changing these ones here, just for that one string. It's doing all the Cs. So the Cs are all the red ones. So see if you can watch some of the other red ones and see if you can see it changing. That's a C sharp, C natural, C flat, C natural, C sharp, C natural, C flat. Okay? So this is the lever harp, and this maybe looks a little bit more like the harp that you have. Now, the lever harp is actually in some ways more difficult than the piano or the pedal harp. Well, I think so anyway. And let's have a little look at this. So let's find a C string. Okay, so remember the red ones are Cs? Now here, that's a C natural. If I just play it like that, that's a C natural. So the same as you would get on the piano if you played the white note C, and the same as you would get on the pedal harp if you had your pedals in that middle position, so that they're in their natural position. So here we go, C natural, okay? Now on the lever harp we haven't got those 3 different notches that we had on the pedal harp. We've only got 2 possibilities. We've got a lever, and the lever can either be up or it can be down. That's it. It can just be up or down. We haven't got our 3 notches. So at the moment this string is sounding all the way from here. So you can see the top of the string on this one. You see that bit isn't sounding. It just sounds from here, from the top here, down to the bottom, down to the soundboard. And this is what it sounds like. If we adjust the lever, it is now sounding from here. So we're making the string shorter, and that means that the sound will be higher. There we go. So that's C natural. And remember, if we make it higher, it's C sharp. So that's C sharp. Okay, now because we've only got 2 different possibilities for each string, I suppose some people might think, well, let's just tune all the strings as naturals, all the strings like they were the white notes on the piano, and then we could either play with everything natural, or we could play with everything sharp if all of the levers were up, and everything in between that, and we just forget about flats altogether because we just can't do them. So that is a way that some teachers would teach. So you would have all the strings tuned like the white notes of the piano, and then you'd be able to do all the sharps and you'd just forget about the flats. Okay? Another way to do it would be to tune everything as flats. So everything like your flat tire, so just that little bit lower. And then when you put all of the levers up, you could have all the naturals. So you'd be able to play all the flats and all the naturals, and you just have to forget about all of the sharps and just think, well, we can't do that. But what a lot of people do is that they sort of come to a halfway house and they think, well, we'd like to be able to play all the naturals because that's useful. And how about we can play some of the sharps and some of the flats? And so that's what a lot of people do. And in order for that to happen, what you have to do is to make the strings as they are before you've done anything with the levers to be some naturals and some flats. And then when you put all the levers up, you have some naturals and some sharps. So for example, we talked about the C. So the C is just a natural C, or we can make it a C sharp. But on my harp here, the E string, I've actually got tuned to be an E flat already. So without me doing anything, it's already a little bit lower than a natural E. So there you go. So that's my E flat. I'll remind you what the flat sign looks like. Like that. It's like a B, but a bit more triangular. So here's my E flat. And so here with an E flat, if I raise the lever, I'm not going to get a sharp because it didn't start off as a natural, it started off as a flat. So it's going one step up to be an E natural. So on my harp, I've got it tuned in 3 flats. So all of my E strings are tuned to flat. So all of these are going to be E flats. And also all the A strings I've got tuned to flat. So they're all going to be A flats. And all the B strings I've got tuned to flats. So they're all going to be B flats. And that means with all of my levers down, I've got 3 flats. I've got E flat, A flat, and B flat. And that means that I can play in 3 flats, or I can play in 2 flats, or I can play in 1 flat, or I can play in naturals, so like the white notes on the piano. But then, if I keep putting up more and more levers, I'm going to get into the sharps, and I can go all the way until if I've got all of my levers up, I would have 4 sharps. So I can't play more than 4 sharps, and I can't play more than 3 flats, but I've got quite a variety there so that I can play along with different instruments and so on, which I think is quite good. And often you don't have that many more flats than 3 flats, and often you don't have that many more sharps than 4 sharps. So it works pretty well. It works pretty well. It's a good kind of compromise. Now that probably all sounded really, really complicated, but gradually, as you've been playing for longer, it will begin to make more sense. And for the moment, you've actually been playing in flats the whole time. You've just probably never even noticed. Because lots of the pieces that you were playing right at the start, like Tiger Prowling and so on, were already in 3 flats, okay? So just to begin to get your head around things, when somebody asks you the names of notes, remember C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, okay? Or if you've got your levers up, your E lever, your A lever, and your B lever, now we can just say C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so watch again. So with your levers down, you've got C, D, E flat. It sounds sad, doesn't it? F, G, A flat, B flat, C. And then with your E, A, and B levers up, now we've got C, or C natural, you could call it, D, or D natural, you could call it, E, or E natural, F, or F natural, G, or G natural, A, or A natural, B, or B natural, C, or C natural. And the tricky thing about the lever harp, as opposed to the pedal harp, as well as all the things we've already been talking about, is that in order to make those changes, you're going to have to do the levers on each string that you want changed. Whereas if you remember on the pedal harp, we had 1 pedal, and just by changing that 1 pedal, we could change all of the C strings, and then by changing the D pedal, we could change all of the D strings. Whereas here, you're going to have to remember to do each one that you need. Okay?